Welcome back. Good to see you. I'm meteorologist Josh Stone in for John Scalzi on this Friday afternoon. We're looking at our live radar for the Suncoast right now. It's quiet now, but later on this afternoon, early this evening, some showers could get going. Now, the sea breeze convergence will probably be further inland, so any of the football games may be being played towards the coast. I think we should be okay. Now, let's talk about the other big story. We have Florence. This is a Category 1 hurricane, officially made landfall earlier this morning. And Florence is actually going to influence our weather. Now, how is that possible? It's actually tracking right into the Carolinas. But the backside of Florence, well, we have that counterclockwise swirl, and we're going to have more of a northwesterly wind component that comes into the Suncoast over the weekend. So not only will it keep us dry because the storms and like today, the convergence will be further inland for those storms to ignite and mostly push eastward. But also, just the other day, we had a report of the red tide being rather high. And with a westerly wind coming off the Gulf of Mexico, that's unfortunately going to bring that smell of the dead fish further inland. So if you're sensitive to that, just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about Florence. Category 1 storm. The other day it was a Category 4. Now it takes a long time for that energy to wind down as far as the waves, so big storm surge taking place along the coastline. Now the winds have come down. Right now, I believe the winds are just 80 miles per hour. I'll say just 80, but 80 miles per hour sustained is pretty strong. It's a minimal hurricane, but the wind field has expanded. So we're talking about maybe 80 mile per hour sustained winds with higher wind gusts, maybe over, say, 100 miles in width. So kind of a big span there, and you can see where the very heavy rain is coming down. This is going to be a flood maker, no doubt about that. Maybe by the time this wraps up over the next 3 or 4 days, could possibly see up to 30 to 40 inches of rainfall accumulated in certain spots. You can see the wind field starts to wind down as it tracks over land because it starts to lose that fuel from the water. The power outages, I think Scott reported over 500,000 people without power. And of course, the rain accumulating will be a major problem, especially as this tracks further inland and then get picked up by trough going to the northeast. It's going to be over mountainous terrains and the Blue Ridge Mountains. You're talking about heavy rain coming down, could potentially have some mudslides. So the latest stats on it, 80 mile per hour sustained winds moving very slow to the west at 6 miles per hour, and then it will bank up to the north and then eventually to the northeast in a few days. So it's a slow mover, and we don't like to see slow moving storms because they can cause some trouble. Now there's also another storm, Tropical Depression Isaac. We're watching this closely. It is in the Caribbean making a westerly, northwesterly trek, but it will encounter some wind shear, and we don't really think it's going to be a problem if it even enters in the Gulf of Mexico, but we'll keep our eye on it. For today's high, upper 80s, partly cloudy skies, but for the football games, just keep an eye to the sky. Could have some outflow boundaries for some of those inland storms that could ignite some storms, maybe tracking towards the coast, but that would probably be in the southern portions of the viewing area. A dry weekend ahead of us, and then into next week, the rain chance ramps up. Back to you, Scott.